Good afternoon and welcome to EPA Region 7's Clean School Bus Rebate webinar. My name is Greg Crable and I work in Region 7's Clean Diesel program. The Clean Diesel program manages grants and rebates under the Diesel Emission Reduction Act and the new Clean School Bus program. I want to emphasize that this is not EPA's DERA's school bus rebate program. It is the Clean School Bus rebate program, which is under the bipartisan infrastructure legislation passed by Congress at the end of 2021. Now I want to introduce to you Andy Hawkins, the branch chief for the Air Quality and Planning branch under the Air and Radiation Division here at Region 7. Andy?
Thank you, Greg. Well, good afternoon, everyone. It's great that we have so many people on. It's a good attendance here so far, so appreciate that. Thank you all for joining us today. Again, my name is Andy Hawkins, and I am the branch chief for the Air Quality and Development branch. And on behalf of Region 7 here in Lenexa and our regional administrator, Meg McCollister, we welcome and thank you for your interest in our school bus program. So following the passage of the historic bipartisan infrastructure law, or bill, as we like to refer to it, EPA will be making significant investments in the health, equity, and resilience of American communities over the next few years. And part of that important work and investment resides in the Clean School Bus program. So EPA's new Clean School Bus program provides $5 billion over 5 years, so 2022 through 2026, to replace existing school buses with zero or low emission bus models, resulting in cleaner air for children in our communities. Our students are particularly vulnerable to air pollution inside and near older diesel buses. And these pollutants increase their risk of asthma and other respiratory illness. Thus, replacing these older buses can make a big difference in their health. So EPA anticipates that we'll be accepting applications for the Clean School Bus rebates towards the end of the month. And we want to ensure you all have the opportunity to apply for this funding. And we also want to ensure our region is well represented in this program. So today you're going to hear more from Dustin and Greg about the program with information on how to apply, eligibility requirements, areas we are prioritizing, and other requirements of the program. So thank you again for your participation in the school bus program rebate webinar. And I guess Greg or Dustin, I'll turn it back to you. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Andy. Before we get started, I want to go over a few ground rules. Just as a reminder, and you're going to be reminded of this throughout the presentation. This is not the DERA school bus rebate program. There are somewhat different parameters under this program than under the DERA program. So you want to pay close attention to that. The link shown here on this slide, next slide. Are you on the next slide? There you go. Is where the Clean School Bus program is housed in the EPA's website. You can go there to get additional information, find answers to commonly asked questions, and to get information on how to apply for the rebates. Below the link are the email addresses for me and Dustin, our speaker today. You are on mute, but we encourage you to submit questions into the chat, and we will be monitoring those as we go. The chat button is found in the middle bottom of your screen. I will be monitoring questions, and we will attempt to answer them at the end of the webinar. For those questions that we are unable to answer, and there are a few, we will submit them to EPA headquarters, and they will post them on that website that you see there, EPA.gov/clean-school-bus. There will be a frequently asked questions and answers on that webpage. Please let me introduce today's speaker. Dustin Ingram is a project officer here at Region 7. He will be working with me on both DERA and Clean School Bus programs. Dustin, take it away.
All right. Welcome. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, Mr. Hawkins, Mr. Crable, for the introduction, the comments. My name is Dustin Ingram. I am the EPA Region 7 project officer responsible for the community outreach regarding this program. So my goal is to ensure that all school districts stay informed and that the states in our region receive fair, equitable, and adequate access to these programs. Today, we'll cover some dense information and identify some key differences between the Diesel Emission Reduction Act grants and this Clean School Bus program. Because of the dense nature of the information shared, I've uploaded my slide deck into the chat. It's approved for distribution to the public and your professional networks. Guys, please help me spread the word about these opportunities. Community outreach is my job. Additionally, this information is from the federal government and the EPA, and we can only answer the questions with information that's publicly available currently. The process for answering novel questions requires some oversight on our end. So to make the best use of our resources, please refer to EPA.gov/cleanschoolbus and the FAQ section as your first resource. With that, we'll get into my slide presentation. As Mr. Hawkins said, the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law's Clean School Bus program provides $5 billion to spur the transformation of our nation's fleet of school buses. EPA's Clean School Bus program goals is to maximize the number of zero emissions and clean school buses that get funded and ensure a broad geographic distribution of awards. So here's our agenda. And my objective here is to get the information to you clearly, concisely, and relatively quickly, give you back some time. So we're going to do a quick overview, followed by the rebate program bus highlights, a timeline for applications and the rebates, eligible and prioritized applicants, school bus replacement guidelines, funding, the application process, selectee requirements, and then the conclusion. Real briefly. Hey, Mr. Dan Fryrex, I can see you on camera. Can you give me a thumbs up if you can hear me? All right, thanks so much for that feedback. An overview of the Bipartisan Infrastructure and Clean Bus. Under Title 11, the Clean School Buses and Ferries, the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law bill provides $5 billion over 5 years. That's from fiscal year 2022 to 26 for the replacement of existing school buses with clean school buses and zero emission buses. These new clean school bus replacements will produce either zero or low tailpipe emissions compared to their older diesel predecessors. These updates are going to be funded under this program will result in cleaner air on the bus, in bus loading areas, and in the communities in which they operate. The first funding opportunity under this bus will be the 2022 Clean School Bus rebates, So the way it's structured is that half of the $5 billion total is dedicated for zero emission school bus. So that's electric school bus specifically. And the other half of the $5 billion is for clean and zero emissions school bus. So clean school bus would be one that's an alternative fuel, compressed natural gas, or propane. A clean school bus is a bus that reduces emissions and operated entirely or in part using alternative fuel. And at the top is zero emission school bus. That's zero emissions at all because they're electric. So the benefits of zero emission and clean school buses, I'm not going to read the entire slide, but we understand that reduced emissions are almost always a better thing. And then alternative fuel buses, reduced tailpipe pollution, the potential for reduced greenhouse gases, potential for reduced fuel cost comparative to traditional fuel methods. Number of applicants per school district. School districts applying directly for funds may only submit one application to replace up to 25 buses. EPA will not fund multiple applications for bus replacements that serve the same school district. So here's the timeline. We're in May 2022 right now. So rebates are expected to open between May 2022 and August 2022. Reviewing the applications and beginning the selection process will occur as early as September 2022. And then selection notification, it's a really important date, is October 2022. And then submitting payment request forms with purchase orders will be within 6 months of the date in the selection notification or April 2023. And the deadline for selectees to receive their new buses, install that infrastructure, replace the old buses, and submit the closeout form is October 2024. So eligible applicants, state and local government entities who are responsible for providing school bus services to one or more school systems or responsible for the purchase of those school buses, nonprofit schools and transportation associations, Indian tribes, tribal organizations or tribally controlled schools, and then eligible contractors. And we'll get into detail about what the specific entities are now. So state and local government entities are ones that provide school bus services, including public school districts or public charter schools with an NCES district ID are also eligible to apply for funding. Indian tribes, tribal organizations that are responsible for the purchase of school buses or providing school bus service for the Bureau of Indian Affairs, BIA, are also eligible. Trade associations and membership organizations in the student transportation industry. We'll get into detail here shortly. And then eligible contractors. So for-profit, not-for-profit, or nonprofit entities that have the capacity to, one, sell clean or zero-emission school buses or related charging or fueling infrastructure to school bus owners, or two, arrange financing for such a sale. School bus dealers and OEMs, original engine manufacturers, that meet these criteria are considered eligible contractors. So eligible contractors continued. Private school bus fleets cannot apply directly for funding under the 2022 Clean School Bus Rebate Program. However, any eligible applicant can partner with a private fleet that owns and operates buses that serve a school district under an active contract. And the example below is much easier to understand with a chart. So when applying, the bus dealer, yellow bus sales, can apply to replace buses owned directly by the private fleet, the school bus company, because those older buses serve the public school district. And if selected, the yellow bus dealer must pass those funds on to the private fleet school bus company, and those new buses must serve the public school district for at least 5 years to be eligible. Another example, so a public school district can apply to replace buses owned by the private fleet or the school bus company because they have an existing contract with a private fleet for the bus service. Additionally, public school districts must pass funds on to the private fleet because the private fleet is going to replace those old buses, and those new buses must replace or must serve that district for at least 5 years. So we have some prioritized applicants, and this is some of that more dense information that I talked about earlier in the presentation. What's really important that I'd like to convey is that regardless if you're considered a priority school district or not, we'd like to see applications from anybody in our region just to make sure that everybody's served. So the bipartisan infrastructure law establishes 3 priority criteria. So applicants that meet one or more of that prioritization criteria will be offered more funding per bus, and they're going to receive preference in the selection process. And we offer equal prioritization for school districts that meet one or more of our criteria. And districts that qualify under one or more of the prioritizations will be identified on the EPA's prioritized funding list. So number 1, high need school districts in low income areas. So school districts that are listed on the small income and poverty estimates as being 20 or having 20% or more of their students living in poverty, that's for 2020 information, are considered a priority school district. Additionally, if schools are not listed on the school district estimates or the small area income and poverty estimates, they can self-certify by providing documentation to the EPA. And the last bullet there is not relevant to EPA Region 7. Rural school districts. So school districts with the locale codes 42 rural remote or 43 rural remote or 42 rural distant are considered priority schools. Additionally, our tribal school districts in Region 7 are considered priority as well. So the guidelines for replacing these buses. Buses eligible for replacement must be 2010 or older diesel-powered school buses that will be scrapped when they're selected for funding. If a fleet has no eligible 2010 or older diesel buses, and is requesting a zero emissions bus, the fleet can either scrap a 2010 or older non-diesel internal combustion bus or scrap, sell, or donate a 2011 or newer internal combustion engine bus. So bus is eligible for replacement, must be over 10,001 pounds, be operational at the time of the application submission, be owned by the fleet receiving the replacement bus, and have provided bus service to the school district for at least 3 days a week on average during the 2021-2022 school year at the time of applying. And there have been some questions regarding, well, our buses didn't run because our kids were at home on Zoom. Anytime they were available to run, our kids were going to school was the time we're going to look at for that ratio. The new replacement buses must have a battery electric, CNG, or propane, CNG is compressed natural gas, drivetrain, be EPA certified model year 2021 or newer, have a gross vehicle weight rating of 10,001 pounds or more, not be ordered prior to receiving official notification of selection for EPA funding. Again, not be ordered prior to receiving official notification of selection for EPA funding. You'll receive an email with a date on it. It's very important to not purchase bus before being approved for the rebate, and be purchased, not leased or leased to own. New replacement school buses must serve the school district listed in the application for at least 5 years from delivery, meet federal safety standards, and be maintained, operated, insured, and registered, charged and fueled according to manufacturer recommendations and state requirements, not include any unvented diesel passenger heaters, not be funded with other federal funds, and upon request be made available for inspection by EPA or its representatives for 5 years from the date of delivery. This is a dense chart, and we are not going to go through every column here. Is why I've uploaded the presentation into the chart. But this really highlights the differences between a priority school and a non-priority school, with buses serving school districts that are priority for a ZE electric class receiving $375,000, and school districts that are eligible but not priority receiving $250,000. And please, if there are questions, feel free to put them in the chat. Additionally, EPA.gov/cleanschoolbus is the primary resource. For infrastructure funding, buses serving school districts that are in priorities or priority school zones receive $20,000 in infrastructure funding. Think charging stations. And buses and other districts receive $13,000. If you're interested in alternative fuel or a zero emission bus, it would be a great idea to get in touch with your local utility and hold an internal discussion over the efficacy of that sort of project. So infrastructure funding restrictions. The chart below really makes it easy for me to understand at least. Basically, once it's past the meter, the infrastructure is eligible for the rebate. So once it crosses the property line, it gets to the meter from the electric panel, the charging infrastructure unit and the electric bus are eligible expenses under this rebate program. The application process. I'm going to spend some time on this slide. Applicants must submit applications using the EPA's Clean School Bus rebate forms, which can be found EPA.gov/cleanschoolbus. Having an active System for Award Management SAM.gov entity registration is incredibly important before you apply for any sort of rebate, before you consider it. If you're sitting at your desk right now in your office, please, if you're in charge of grants and rebates for your organization, make sure that you have a SAM.gov and a new UEI number, because they've changed it recently. It might take some time to get your SAM.gov account up and running if you haven't used it, or if you're unfamiliar with it. We cannot proceed unless you have that. Again, please go to SAM.gov for your System for Award Management entity registration and be registered before we even start the process. So also have points of contact listed under your organization's SAM.gov entity registration. Again, please visit the website before we go any further and take care of that. It would save us a whole lot of time and heartache in the future. EPA is going to post questions and answers document at EPA.gov/cleanschoolbus. It's going to be updated every 2 weeks during the application period. Now, when we receive novel questions from you in the chat, for example, or other questions that I can't answer, we send those through our chain of command, if you will, and they will make it to the frequently asked questions if it's deemed pertinent. The application deadline will be in August, so it's coming up soon. Please check the website for the exact date. Late applications will not be accepted. Again, important, your SAM.gov registration, you've got to be actively registered and understand your UEI, your unique entity identifier, and be assigned one. Please go to SAM.gov and make that account and make sure it's up to date. So selection and notification applications received by the deadline will be placed in a single ordered list using random number generator in a lottery process. The EPA will select applicants for funding working from the top to the bottom of the list until all funds are allocated from both Clean School Bus and zero emission halves of funding. To ensure a broad geographic distribution of funds, EPA will select at least one application per state or territory, provided there are at least one eligible application. And applicants not selected by the lottery will remain on the random number order or wait list, on a wait list. EPA applications or anticipates notifying applicants of their selection status within 60 days of the application deadline. Applicants that are selected for funding will receive an electronic selection notification that includes that they've been selected, the maximum amount of funds that have been reserved for them, and instruction of proceeding for the purchase of their new school bus and infrastructure. After receiving notifications, selectees must submit the payment request form or purchase orders for the new school buses and eligible infrastructure within 6 months. It's very important that no applicant purchase or expect a rebate any school bus without having the confirmation email. After new buses and eligible infrastructure are received and the old buses have been either scrapped, sold, or donated, the selectee must submit an online closeout form. It's got to be submitted within 2 years of the date of the electronic selection notification, and it requires some documents. I will put this slides into the chat again. It looks like if you join after the time we start, you don't get to see what I upload. Before we leave the meeting, I'll update this. And then at the very bottom, read the small print. It's very important that your organization retains financial records and other supporting documents in case of audit. All right, so to recap, EPA anticipates awarding $500 million in rebate funding for zero emission and clean school buses. Don't forget to start your SAM.gov registration, get that UEI number. We're going to initiate discussions with your local, or you should initiate discussions with your local utility now if you anticipate applying for zero emissions buses. EPA expects to post the program guide and prioritized applicant list in early May. We're almost to mid-May, so it should be soon. Online application period will open in May and close in August. Sign up for your this Clean School Bus listserv and continue to check EPA.gov/cleanschoolbus for latest program updates, and submit your feedback and questions to cleanschoolbus@EPA.gov. And hold off on submitting questions until the program guide is published. Finally, there's me and Mr. Crable's information. What I'll do now is I will upload this presentation into the chat and ask Mr. Crable if I missed anything.
You didn't miss a thing. Good job. All righty. I thought since there were so few questions, I'll kind of repeat them just so everybody gets to hear them. It was mentioned that the new buses need to be delivered and put into service by October 2023. I believe that's what was said. Oh, I'm literal. It's taking 8 to 9 months right now to get new buses built and delivered. Will there be waivers from this date? Yeah, we realize the problems that everybody's having with these school buses, and this program is going to even make it worse. So if there is a need for a change in that delivery date, you would just contact me or Dustin at those email addresses that you see there on the screen and tell us, and we will tell you that we just need a a more specific date when you got one, let us know. And somebody asked, does the infrastructure expense include any maintenance training for other transportation people? I do believe that it will, but I am going to verify that with EPA headquarters. Anybody that wants that answer, email Dustin or I, and we will send you the actual, but I'm pretty sure that it does. Slides are going to be uploaded.
Yep.
And there they are. Okay. I did want to emphasize something, and basically because we only have 34 people on here, we sent out over 16,000 emails. So we are guaranteed from EPA headquarters that at least one project in each state will receive funding. So you'd be wise to go ahead and apply if there isn't that much of an interest here in Region 7, which might not be. But anyway,
regardless if you're priority or not, because if
yes,
we don't get any priority schools to apply, those funds,
we'll go next to that. Every school district is eligible under this program. It's just that initially priority schools that are asking for electric school buses will be first. Then school districts that are not priority but are requesting electric school buses will be next. And then after that, it will be priority schools that are asking for natural gas and propane for both priority and all other school districts. We are anticipating $500 million, and we are able to go up to 1 billion. So if there is more requests than we have money to give out, we will add money to the pot and continue. Anybody that does not receive funding will go on a wait list, and if money becomes available, they will go to the wait list to select applicants or selectees. So if that's all.
I do have a quick question for the group, or a request, if you don't mind,
Yeah.
Greg. Hey guys, I appreciate your attendance today, and I wish our emails were more efficacious and had attracted more people to this. However, please help us be successful. The slideshow is approved for release to the public, so send it to people in your network. Feel free to tag my email. I can send a recording. We're going to have a recording of this set up at a link hosted at the EPA. So any way to get this information out there and help our region be more successful and access this grant money, please let us lean on your professional networks a little bit. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Dustin. And thank you for everybody that's chimed in on our webinar. We may have more to come once we get additional information, which should be coming at the end of May. Have a good day. Thanks.
Thank you, Greg.